Welcome to the Future Chi Podcast.
Welcome back. We are here, and today we are tackling part 3, check engine series for the human body.
Today's topic, it really does shift the paradigm. It takes a lot of what we thought we knew about diagnostics and kind of flips it on its head.
It really does. So just to get everyone up to speed, let's do a quick recap, because if you missed parts 1 and 2, you're going to want the context before we just, launch into this.
Absolutely. The analogy is key.
So we started this whole series with a simple idea. The human body, it's like a high-performance car. It has dashboard indicators. In part 1, we talked all about the tongue.
Right. And we define the tongue as the check engine light.
The check engine light.
Exactly. It's a visual warning system. You stick it out, you look in the mirror, and you see maybe some redness or a thick yellow coating or cracks running down the center. It tells you something is wrong, just like that annoying little orange light on your car's dashboard. But it doesn't tell you exactly how to fix it. It's a general status alert. It's just saying, hey, pay attention, something under the hood is overheating.
Exactly. It's visual confirmation. Then, in part 2, we moved on to the pulse. And we called that one checking the oil pressure.
Because the pulse is all about the hydraulics of the system. It's all about flow and volume and the pressure of the fluids, what do you call it, blood, or the concept of chi moving through the engine.
It's more specific.
It is. It tells you if the system's running rich or maybe running lean, or if the pump is struggling. It's tactile. You have to physically feel the rhythm and the force against the vessel wall. It gives you more data than just the light.
So we have the warning light and we have the oil pressure gauge. But today we are talking about the ear. And the analogy we're using for this whole exploration is the OBD port.
The onboard diagnostics port.
And for anyone listening who isn't a car person, let's just paint the picture here. Your car is acting weird. You take it to the mechanic. The first thing they do, they don't just pop the hood and stare at the engine anymore.
Not anymore, no.
They crawl under the steering wheel, they find that little trapezoidal plug, and they physically plug in a computer. They start talking directly to the car's ECU, the electronic control unit.
And that distinction is so critical. With the tongue, you just look at it.
Right.
With the pulse, you just feel it. But with the OBD port, you plug in. You are establishing a hardline connection to the central computer.
And biologically, it turns out this isn't just a clever metaphor. The ear is unique because of how it's wired into our nervous system. It is, and this is the big claim, arguably the only place on the human body where we have this specific read-write capability.
Read and write. That's the phrase that really anchored all the research for me. We're not just reading the error codes anymore. We are talking about potentially rewriting the code in the ECU, which in this case is the brain itself. We can send signals up the line to literally change how the whole machine runs.
That is a massive, massive claim. And to even begin to understand how that's possible, we have to look at the source material we've gathered, because it presents this really interesting conflict. It's like a clash of civilizations, or at least a clash of paradigms, all centered on the human ear.
Oh, it absolutely plays out like a movie script. The research outlines these really distinct personas that kind of drive the whole narrative. On one side, you have this character we're calling Neo. He's the AI architect. He represents the, the cyberpunk future.
Neo is the guy who looks at biology and just sees hardware waiting for a firmware update.
That's it, exactly. Neo sees the ear purely as an interface. For him, it's a USB port for biometrics. He genuinely believes that with the right technology, what the industry is calling Earables, we can replace acupuncture needles with a pair of headphones.
He wants to hack the system.
He wants to hack the system using frequencies and AI. He wants to optimize the human experience through code.
But then, standing in his way, you've got Dr. Zhang, the old master.
Right. And Dr. Zhang represents thousands of years of traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM. He is the ultimate skeptic in this story. To him, the ear is... it's holy ground.
Holy ground, I like that.
He calls it the inverted fetus. And we'll definitely get to that image in a moment. And he believes it connects directly to our deepest energy, the kidney essence.
So for him, these electronic needles are just...
they're a shortcut, a spiritual shortcut that misses the entire point. To Zhang, you can't reduce the human spirit, the Shen, to ones and zeros.
And stuck right in the middle of this huge debate is Dr. Sarah.
Dr. Sarah. She's our scientific bridge. She's the one using modern neurobiology to explain why both the ancient monks and the tech bros might actually be talking about the exact same thing without even realizing it.
And that's really the mission for us today. Can we reconcile these views? Can we actually hack our own nervous system using AI and, earbuds? And I guess the bigger question is, if we can, should we?
Because there's a fourth character we haven't mentioned yet, Alex, the paranoid intern, who raises some really serious questions about privacy.
Oh, the privacy stuff is genuinely terrifying. We will absolutely get there. But let's start with the hardware. Why the ear? I mean, of all the body parts, why not the nose? Or the big toe? Why is the ear the OBD port?
It comes down to one very specific, very famous nerve, the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve. Okay, yeah. We hear about this all the time now in wellness circles. Ice baths, humming, deep breathing exercises. It's all about toning your vagus nerve.
It is, but usually in the context of, gut health or deep breathing. The vagus nerve is the master controller of your parasympathetic nervous system.
That's the rest and digest mode, right?
That's your rest and digest mode. It is the brake pedal for your entire stress response. Now, here's the thing. Usually, this nerve is buried deep inside your body, wrapped around your organs. It's in your chest, it's in your abdomen, winding around your heart and your lungs. It's very much an internal structure.
Okay, so it's not something you can just poke.
Not at all. But the research highlights what they call a mind-blowing discovery regarding its location.
Go on.
It's an anatomical anomaly. The ear is the only place on the entire surface of the human body where the vagus nerve actually comes to the surface of the skin.
Wait, pause on that. You're telling me a nerve that is supposed to be regulating my heart and my stomach is sitting right there, basically exposed to the air, inside my ear?
Essentially, yes, a branch of it. It's called the auricular branch of the vagus nerve. And it surfaces right there in the concha, that deep, cave-like hollow in the middle of your ear, right next to your ear canal.
So evolution just left a back door open.
It left us a back door. It's an access panel.
So effectively, the ear gives us direct surface-level access to the brain's main control cable.
That's exactly it. And Kajsa Landgren, who's one of the leading researchers in this field, she uses this fantastic analogy for it. She calls the ear a keyboard and screen.
Okay, let's unpack that. Screen implies we're looking at something, we're getting information.
So the screen aspect is the diagnosis part. The ear displays data about what is happening in your brain and in your body. If your brain is stressed or an organ is inflamed, the ear shows it. That's the read function we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so it's the monitor. But keyboard, that implies input, action.
Correct. Because the nerve is right there on the surface, we can type commands onto the ear. We can stimulate that nerve ending, whether it's with a needle or a laser or a tiny electrical pulse from an earbud, and that signal goes right back up the wire into the brainstem. We are literally programming the brain to change its state.
And this is where that debate between Neo and Dr. Sarah gets really interesting. Because Neo is just saying, it's a dashboard for sensors, let's put sensors on it.
Right. He sees the screen, but not the keyboard.
But Dr. Sarah is saying, no, look at the actual mechanism.
Exactly. Dr. Sarah points out that when you stimulate a specific point in the ear, let's take Shen Men, which is a famous acupuncture point for anxiety, you're not doing magic. It's not metaphysical. You are mechanically firing the auricular branch of the vagus nerve.
It's a physical action.
It's a physical action. That signal travels to a part of the brainstem called the nucleus tractus solitarius, and that physically, measurably lowers your heart rate and reduces systemic inflammation. It's pure neurology.
So the ancient acupuncturists found this button through, centuries of trial and error, and they called it the spirit gate, Shen Men.
Yeah.
And now modern science comes along, puts a probe on it, and says, oh, look at that. That's the vagus nerve interface.
Precisely. They are mapping the exact same terrain, just with different languages, with different names.
Speaking of maps, if we're going to type on this keyboard, we need to know where the keys are. And this is where that visual of the inverted fetus comes in. And I have to be honest with you. When I first read this part of the notes, my skepticism meter went through the roof.
It usually does. It's the first hurdle for most people.
I mean, come on. The ear kind of looks like an upside-down baby, so therefore the earlobe connects to the head. It sounds like pareidolia, like seeing a face in a cloud or, a Jesus on a piece of toast. Is there any actual anatomical backing for this? Or is it just a convenient metaphor that stuck around?
That is a very, very valid pushback, and it's exactly the kind of question Dr. Sarah would ask. But here's where it gets so fascinating. It's not just a visual similarity, it's about embryology.
Okay, how the baby actually forms in the womb.
Exactly. When the embryo is developing, the neural crest cells that form the brain and the nervous system also migrate to form the structures of the outer ear. The tissues are linked at a fundamental developmental level. So the map of the body gets projected onto the ear in a very specific, organized way.
So it's not random.
It's not random. Dr. Paul Nogier was a French physician who really popularized this in the 1950s, but his maps align with texts that are thousands of years old. So humor me for a second. I want you and everyone listening to visualize a fetus, a baby curled up in the womb, knees tucked in, back curved, head down.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
No, take that image and superimpose it upside down on your ear. The head of that baby is at the bottom.
So that would be the earlobe.
Right. The earlobe represents the head and the brain.
Which, now that you say that, it makes a weird kind of sense why we instinctively rub our earlobes when we're thinking or trying to concentrate. We're literally stimulating the brain point.
It might actually be a real feedback loop. It's not just a fidget. So then if you follow the ear up from the lobe, that curved outer ridge, the part you'd get pierced, the helix that corresponds to the spine, the curved back of the baby.
Okay, that makes sense. Head, spine, and then the inside, the deep cave where you said the vagus nerve is.
That's the concha. That area corresponds to the internal organs, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the stomach. It makes sense if the baby is curled protectively around them. And that, not coincidentally, is where the vagus nerve, the master nerve for the organs, surfaces.
And this convergence of maps, this is what Dr. Sarah, our scientific bridge, finds so compelling. It's not just that the map looks like a baby, it's that the neurology actually backs it up.
It validates the whole system. Modern medicine uses something called TVNS. It stands for transcutaneous auricular vagus nerve stimulation.
It's a mouthful.
It is, but it's an FDA-cleared therapy now for things like epilepsy and severe treatment-resistant depression. And when you look at the clinical studies, when you look at where they place the electrodes for this high-tech modern treatment.
Let me guess, right in the concha.
It is the exact same coordinate in the concha where traditional Chinese medicine placed the heart in Shen points thousands of years ago to treat anxiety and palpitations.
So science calls it TVNS and TCM calls it ear acupuncture for anxiety. But they're literally pressing the same button.
They are pressing the same key on the same keyboard. One uses a tiny gold needle, the other uses a controlled electric current, but the input signal to the brain is identical.
That is absolutely wild. So, okay, we have the hardware, the vagus nerve, we have the map, the inverted fetus. Now let's talk about the software. How does the machine, or in this case, the AI that Neo is building, how does it actually see disease? Because I'm assuming it's not looking for a red tongue or a little crack in the earlobe.
No, and this is where the Neo perspective really diverges from the traditional Dr. Zhang approach. Traditional diagnosis is visual. A TCM practitioner looks at the ear and they see, flaking skin or dryness or maybe a visible little spider vein or some swelling edema.
Physical signs.
Those are all visual cues of pathology. If the liver area on the map is red and flaky, the practitioner deduces that the liver is stressed or inflamed.
But the AI is looking at something totally invisible to the human eye.
The AI is measuring skin electrical resistance, or another word for it is impedance. And this brings us to what's called the binary phenomenon, which is a really crucial concept in this whole field.
I loved this part of the research, but I'm going to need you to break down the physics for me. Why does electricity matter here? How does that work?
Okay, so think of the skin on your ear like a semiconductor. In a healthy person, the skin on the ear has extremely high electrical resistance. We're talking millions of ohms. It's basically an insulator.
Okay.
So if you touch a probe from a device to a healthy point on my ear, the meter just reads open circuit. Nothing gets through. The electricity is blocked.
So if I'm perfectly healthy and you scan my ear with Neo's high-tech device, the whole map is dark, no signals.
Exactly. It's silent. It's electrically silent. But, and here's the mechanism that fascinates the biologists. When an internal organ becomes diseased, let's say the liver becomes inflamed, the body sends a distress signal through the nervous system.
A biological error code.
A biological error code. That signal travels up to the brain and then out to the corresponding point on the ear map, the liver point, and it physically alters the cellular structure of the skin at that one specific coordinate.
Alters it how? What does it do?
It increases the amount of interstitial fluid in that tiny little patch of skin. It makes it a bit soggier on a microscopic level. More fluid means more electrolytes, salt and water. And what do salt and water do to electricity?
I conduct it.
Boom. The resistance plummets from millions of ohms down to nearly zero. The point turns from an insulator into a conductor. So when Neo's AI scans the ear, it isn't looking for redness, it's looking for a short circuit. It's looking for the path of least resistance.
It is literally a dashboard warning light. It's off until there's a problem, and then it flashes on because the circuit suddenly completes.
That's the binary signal. It's either on or off, high resistance or low resistance, healthy or sick. And this is what allows for what doctors call differential diagnosis with such incredible accuracy.
The research gave a really great example of this using stomach pain.
Right, it's a classic case. Let's say a patient comes into the emergency room with severe abdominal pain. It could be appendicitis, which is an emergency, or it could be a kidney stone, which is painful but different. Physically, just by poking their stomach, it might be really hard to tell. They both hurt in roughly the same area. But the AI scans the ear, it checks the appendix point on the map, and it checks the kidney point on the map.
And if the appendix point is silent, high resistance, but the kidney point is screaming electrically, just lit up with low resistance.
The AI knows instantly. It's a kidney stone, not appendicitis.
That is unbelievably efficient. You're checking the body's internal error codes before you even need to order a CT scan.
And this is why Dr. Zhang, our skeptic, despite all his reservations about the technology, he still has to admit that the ancient axiom holds true. The kidney opens to the ear. The ear really is a dashboard for the entire nervous system.
So we can diagnose with this incredible precision. But let's go back to that right capability, the treatment, because this is where things get really practical and, frankly, life-changing for people. The research talks a lot about something called the NAD protocol.
Yes. NA. It stands for the National Acupuncture Detoxification Association. This protocol is sometimes just called the ear hack by practitioners.
And this isn't just theoretical. This isn't a wellness trend. This has been used in some of the most intense, real-world scenarios imaginable. We are not talking about a spa day in Beverly Hills here.
Absolutely not. This is frontline medicine. Groups like Acupuncturists Without Borders use this exact protocol in disaster zones. They were at ground zero after 9/11 treating first responders. They were in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. They use it constantly in refugee camps around the world.
Why this specific protocol? What makes it so uniquely suited for trauma?
The primary feature, the thing that makes it so powerful, is that it's completely nonverbal.
Nonverbal.
Think about a disaster victim or a soldier with severe PTSD. Asking them to sit down and talk about what just happened can be deeply re-traumatizing. Their verbal centers in the brain might be totally shut down by shock. With the NAD protocol, the patient doesn't need to say a single word. They just sit quietly in a group, and the practitioner treats 5 specific points on both ears.
Okay, let's walk through those 5 points. It's described as a circuit, right? It's like a specific recipe for resetting the nervous system.
It is. It's a 5-point circuit designed to reboot the entire ECU. Point number 1 is sympathetic. This is the master switch for the autonomic nervous system. Hitting this point immediately begins to downregulate the fight-or-flight response.
Okay, so step 1 is just cut the siren, stop the panic signal.
Step 2 is Shen Men, or spirit gate. We mentioned this one earlier. It's that direct access point to the vagus nerve. It creates a profound, almost immediate sense of calm and well-being. It's like anesthesia for the spirit.
Step 3.
The kidney point. Now, in Western medicine, we think of kidneys as filtering blood. But in the language of Chinese medicine, the kidney is associated with the emotion of fear. Deep, existential, bone-deep fear. Stimulating this point helps the body release that deep-seated terror or shock.
Okay, so that's the fear. Then number 4.
The liver point. The liver is said to hold anger and stress. It's where we store tension, frustration, irritability. This point helps to physically relax the muscles and release that pent-up fight energy.
And the final point in the circuit.
The lung. The lung is associated with grief and the process of letting go. It's about processing loss, sadness, and allowing yourself to exhale that emotional weight.
Fear, anger, grief, stress, and the main fight or flight switch. I mean, that's a full emotional reboot right there.
It is a complete system reset. And this, of course, is where Neo, our AI architect, gets incredibly excited. He looks at this 5-point protocol and he says, why do we need a person with needles to do this? He envisions these Earables, smart headphones, that can silently play this chord of 5 different frequencies, each one tuned to stimulate one of those points. Imagine treating PTSD or a panic attack without needles, without therapy sessions, just by wearing a device that hits these 5 points electronically while you listen to music.
That sounds absolutely amazing, but also incredibly complicated. And this brings us to the whole advanced engineering section, because Dr. Zhang, our skeptic, is standing there with his arms crossed saying, you can't just digitize this, you can't replace the master's hand with a microchip.
And he has very valid practical points. Dr. Zhang asks about the variables. Human ears are messy. They have sweat, they have different shapes, they have hair, earwax. And what about dead batteries?
Dead batteries. What does he mean by that?
So in TCM, there's this concept that sometimes a patient is so depleted, so low on qi or vital energy, that the point doesn't light up electrically even if they are sick. It's like the bulb in the dashboard is completely burnt out. So Zhang asks the AI, how can your machine tell the difference between a healthy silent point and a dead battery point? If the resistance is high, does that mean the person is healthy or just completely empty?
That's a great question. So how does Neo's team answer that? What's the engineering solution?
Neo uses what's called active scanning. The AI doesn't just listen passively for resistance, it actively pings the tissue. It sends a tiny micropulse of electricity into the point and measures capacitance, which is how much of a charge the skin can hold for a split second.
And a dead point holds a charge differently than a healthy one.
Exactly. Even if the resistance is high in both, the capacitance of a dead, depleted point is totally different from a healthy, vital point. If the chart holding capacity is wrong, the AI flags it as a false silence.
Okay, that's brilliant. So that handles the energy level issue. But what about the shape problem? My ear looks nothing like your ear. Some people have attached lobes, some are detached. How does the AI map a rigid 2D grid onto a unique 3D ear?
That was a huge hurdle. Early versions of these devices failed constantly because of this. Neo's solution is deformable mesh technology.
Deformable mesh.
It uses computer vision tiny cameras inside the earbud to find key anatomical landmarks. It looks for the tragus, which is that little flap of cartilage, the root of the helix, the specific curve of the concha, and then it digitally warps the 2D map. It literally stretches and skews the coordinate system to fit your specific ear geometry.
It's like putting a filter on a face in a social media app, but for medical anatomy. It locks onto the key features and moves the mesh with them.
That's a perfect analogy. But then you have the biggest, most common enemy of all electronics, moisture, sweat.
Right. If I'm at the gym or if I just had a stressful meeting and I'm a bit sweaty, my skin is wet, and water conducts electricity, won't my entire ear just look like one giant short circuit to the device?
Yes. That was another huge problem. If you're sweaty, your whole ear has low resistance, you look sick everywhere. The AI would think your entire body is failing simultaneously.
So how do they filter that noise out? How does it tell the difference?
Multispectral sensing. The sensors don't just measure resistance anymore. The new ones measure temperature and resistance at the exact same time.
How does that help?
Because pathology inflammation, a real disease process, is hot. It generates heat. Sweat, on the other hand, is usually cooling, or at the very least, it's at normal body temperature. So if a point has low resistance but a normal temperature, the AI's algorithm assumes it's just sweat and ignores it. But if a point has low resistance, A&D and elevated temperature,
That's the signal.
that's the signal. That's inflammation. That's a true positive. That's pathology.
That is just incredible problem solving. It's layering different types of data to find the truth. But Dr. Zhang had one more objection that I found really fascinating. The concept of blocked patients.
Yes. Lateralization issues. This is getting into some deep TCM theory. The idea is that sometimes a person's nervous system can get so scrambled, usually from trauma or chronic illness, that signals get crossed. Their left side doesn't communicate properly with their right side. Their polarity is flipped.
And the machine has a test for this.
It has what's called the polarity test. The device creates a tiny signal loop. It sends a positive electrical pulse to a point and measures the response, and then it sends a negative pulse to the same point.
And what's it looking for?
In a healthy, organized nervous system, the body reacts differently to positive and negative charges. There's a clear bias. But if the patient is blocked, the reaction is chaotic or it's identical to both charges. The AI flags this and basically says, warning, system blockage detected.
And then what? Does it just give up on the person?
No, it suggests a pre-treatment protocol. It runs a very specific frequency sequence that's designed to reestablish proper communication between the brain's hemispheres. It won't even try to treat the liver or the kidney until it runs this unblocking sequence first.
It's literally debugging the human. Error. Driver not found. Attempting to reinstall.
It is. It's treating the body like a complex circuit board that needs basic maintenance before it can run the more advanced programs.
Speaking of circuit boards and hacking, let's talk about that section on biohacking, because there are some specific points mentioned in the source material that sound like they're straight out of a sci-fi novel.
The master control panel points. These are the points that biohackers and advanced practitioners are completely obsessed with.
Yeah. Tell me about the pain switch. That sounds like something a supervillain would be looking for.
It does. This is technically the thalamus point. The thalamus is the central relay station in your brain for all sensory information, especially pain signals. Everything from your body, a stubbed toe, a burn, a cut, it goes through the thalamus before it hits your conscious mind, and you register it as pain.
So by stimulating this point on the ear.
You can effectively dampen the transmission of that signal. You're not healing the injury, but you are turning down the volume knob on the suffering. This is an incredible tool for chronic pain management.
And what about the brain tuner?
That's the master oscillation point. It's a fascinating one. It's used clinically to treat things like dyslexia, learning disabilities, and certain attention issues. The idea is that it helps balance the interaction between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It syncs the processors, so to speak. It aligns the clock speed so they work together more efficiently.
And then there's the military application, battlefield acupuncture. This isn't just theory. This is an official U.S. Air Force protocol. This is happening right now in combat zones.
It was developed by a physician named Dr. Richard Niemsau, and the goal was very specific. Reduce the use of opioids in active combat zones. You have soldiers in immense pain. Maybe they've been shot or injured by an IED. You need to manage that pain, but you also need them to be functional. You can't have them doped up on morphine and unable to hold a weapon or follow orders.
So what's the tech they use?
They use what are called ASP needles. They look like tiny, semi-permanent gold darts. They're very small. And they insert them into 5 specific points on the ear.
And the result is that immediate.
It's incredibly fast. The constant stimulation from these darts creates a signal that hijacks a part of the brain called the cingulate gyrus. Now, that's the part of the brain that processes the emotional component of pain.
Wait, can you distinguish that for me? The emotional aspect versus the physical aspect?
Right. So the soldier still knows they're injured. They can feel the sensation of the wound. But the suffering, the panic, the agony, that overwhelming, I can't handle this feeling, it dissolves. The reported pain levels often drop by 50 to 75% in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
It allows a soldier to walk out of a combat zone under their own power or wait for a medevac without going into physiological shock from the pain.
That is it's incredibly powerful, decoupling the sensation from the suffering. But this all brings us to the dark side, the dilemma. We have this incredible access point, this OBD port. But if we can read it and we can write to it, who owns that data?
And this is where Alex, our paranoid intern persona, comes into the picture. And Alex asks a very, very valid question about ear ID.
Ear ID, because apparently our ears are as unique as our fingerprints.
They are. It's a proven biometric. The specific shape of your ear, the curves of the cartilage, it's unique to you. Security cameras can already identify people by the shape of their ear. It's just as accurate as facial recognition in many cases.
So, okay, let's imagine a world where you're wearing these Earables, these smart headphones, designed by Neo's company. They're constantly monitoring your vagus nerve to keep you calm and optimized, but they are also constantly identifying you.
And they are harvesting data. This is the scenario that Alex is so worried about. Let's say your headphones detect that your stress levels, your cortisol markers, your vagus nerve tone are spiking. They know you are getting anxious before you even consciously realize it.
Okay, so maybe they play some calming music or a special frequency. What's the harm in that?
The harm is, who else sees that spike? Does that data stay on your device? Or does it go to the cloud, to the company's server?
It's not just about monitoring me in the moment, though, is it? It's like pre-crime for your health. Let's play out the Alex's scenario. I decide to apply for life insurance. The insurance company asks for access to my Apple EarPod health data.
And they run the numbers, and they see that your kidney point has been showing low electrical resistance, a sign of high stress and fear, for 6 straight months. Now, you don't have kidney failure yet. Your blood tests are perfectly fine. But the electrical signal in your ear, the check engine light, is already flashing red.
So they deny my coverage based on a disease that I don't technically even have yet.
Or they just triple your premium. Or think about car insurance. Your rates go up because your vagus nerve data shows you're in a chronic state of fight or flight whenever you drive in traffic. You are, biologically speaking, a high-risk driver, even if you've never had so much as a speeding ticket.
That is a terrifying level of biological transparency. We're turning our nervous systems into open books that corporations can read.
Exactly. If the OBD port is wide open, who is reading the data? Is it your doctor who has your best interests at heart? Or is it a corporation that's selling your nervous system's real-time status to the highest bidder?
The ethical question here is just huge. Is the convenience of having your anxiety automatically regulated for you worth the risk of having your deepest biological states constantly monitored and monetized?
It's the ultimate trade-off. We're literally talking about outsourcing our emotional regulation to an algorithm. Is that freeing or is it a trap?
We'll come back to that thought in the outro, but before we wrap this all up, we have to touch on the theory section.
Yeah.
Because there is a question that always comes up with this stuff, and it's a fair one. How? How can the entire human body be mapped onto a tiny little ear? It seems physically impossible.
This is the holographic theory. The analogy they use here is just beautiful. Think of a holographic plate, like those old 3D images you'd see in museums. If you take a normal photograph, you cut it in half, you lose half the image. It's gone. But if you take a holographic plate and you shatter it into 100 pieces, every single shard still contains the image of the whole object.
Just at a lower resolution.
Exactly. The theory is that the body is a fractal. The complete genetic code is in every single cell. And the energetic map, the key map, if you will, is contained within every microsystem. The ear is a fractal of the whole body. The hand is a fractal. The sole of the foot is a fractal. The part contains the whole.
So we are walking, talking holograms. I love that. It connects the physics back to the biology in a really elegant way. And speaking of holograms and visuals, we absolutely have to talk about the pirates.
The pirate trivia. I love this detail. It's the perfect palate cleanser after all that heavy ethics talk.
It is. We always picture pirates with those big gold hoop earrings, and we just assume it was fashion, or maybe it was a sort of savings account they wore on their face so they could pay for their own funeral if they washed ashore somewhere.
But the source material suggests it was actually a form of ancient biohacking.
The eye point.
The eye point, right. The specific point on the earlobe that corresponds to the eye is located right in the center of the lobe. And the theory is that sailors and pirates would intentionally pierce this specific point with a gold earring to improve their eyesight, specifically their night vision for scanning the horizon for other ships.
So Captain Jack Sparrow wasn't just being stylish, he was trying to hack his own visual cortex to be a better pirate.
It just goes to show that humans have been trying to use this keyboard for a very, very long time. Whether it's a simple gold hoop or a sophisticated Bluetooth headset, we are always trying to tweak the machine.
All right, we are nearing the end of our time. But we can't let you go without a little interactive experiment. We want you to feel this connection for yourself right now.
Yeah, this is a very safe, very simple way to engage the system we've been talking about. You don't need needles. You don't need any electricity.
Okay, instruction number 1, energy. If you are feeling a bit sluggish right now, maybe that mid-afternoon slump is hitting. I want you to reach up with both hands and grab your earlobes.
Grab them firmly. Don't be shy about it.
And just pull straight down. Give them a good, firm tug. And do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3.
What you are doing is mechanically stimulating the reflex point for the head and the brain. You might feel a sudden rush of warmth or heat to your cheeks or your ears. That's an instant increase in blood flow to your cerebral cortex. It helps flush out that mental fog.
It's honestly better than a shot of espresso sometimes. Now, instruction number 2, the anxiety reset. This is for when the boss sends that email or you're stuck in traffic and feeling that tension rise.
For this one, I want you to feel around in the upper part of your ear. You're looking for a little valley, a triangular dip right near the top.
It's called the triangular fossa in anatomy.
Yes, it's just above that deep cave, the concha. Take your thumbnail or your index finger and just pinch that little valley. It might be a little tender if you're feeling stressed out.
And that's Shen Men.
That is Shen Men, the spirit gate. Pinch it and just take one deep breath in and out. You are manually hitting the brake pedal on your stress response via the vagus nerve. You are sending a direct calm down command to your brainstem.
It's just amazing that we have these buttons built right into us, and most of us go our whole lives without ever knowing how to push them.
I'm legitimately feeling that. It's weird, right? We just finished that interactive experiment, pinching the Shen Men point, that little valley in the upper ear, and pulling down on the earlobes.
You feel it, though.
I do. I have to admit, I didn't expect the reaction to be this immediate. It's like a rush of heat went straight to my face.
It is distinctive, isn't it? That heat you're feeling, that's vasodilation. You've physically triggered a parasympathetic response just by, applying mechanical pressure.
You essentially reached into my nervous system and hit the manual brake pedal.
That's a great way to put it.
It's wild that a manual pinch can do that. It feels like a body hack. But the reason we did that wasn't just to relax everyone. It was to set the stage for where we're going today.
Right.
Because while pinching your ear with your fingers is cool, what happens when we stop using fingers and seeds and start using, algorithms?
That's the pivot point. We're moving from the manual age of auriculotherapy ear acupuncture into the age of advanced bioengineering. We aren't just talking about stimulation anymore. We are talking about Earables. Sensors that live in your ear, reading biosignals, diagnosing complex conditions, and even treating them automatically.
Earables. I love that term, even if it sounds a little bit like a futuristic fashion accessory.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about stimulating the vagus nerve, which is a major highway for the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
The vagus nerve branch in the ear is tiny. It's surrounded by other nerves that transmit pain or move muscles. If you're zapping electricity into the ear, how do you stop it from leaking?
This is the issue of crosstalk. The skin is conductive. If you apply a current to a specific point, like Shen Men, the electricity naturally wants to spread out across the surface of the skin, like water spilling on a table.
And if it spreads too far, you might hit a pain receptor or a motor nerve, causing twitching or discomfort.
Which would make the device unwearable. Nobody wants a twitchy ear or a sharp sting when they're trying to relax. So, to prevent this, engineers use something called guard ring electrodes.
Okay.
Imagine the main pin that delivers the electricity is in the center, the bullseye. Surrounding that pin is a second metal ring.
A grounding ring.
Exactly, a grounding ring. It's a concentric circle design.
Okay, I can picture that.
So when the current leaves the center pin, that outer ring creates a path of least resistance that forces the electricity to travel down into the tissue, towards the nerve, and then loop back up to the ring.
So it shapes the electrical field.
Yes. It effectively beams the electricity down instead of letting it splash across the surface. We call it beamforming in signal processing. It ensures pinpoint stimulation of the vagus nerve branch without triggering the surrounding tissue. It makes the treatment painless and incredibly precise.
It is wild to think about that level of precision sitting in a consumer earbud. We've gone from rub your ear if it hurts to beam-forming electricity.
It's a huge leap.
So that's the hardware stack. We have a sensor that works, and we have an electrode that's safe. Now, I want to shift gears to what this actually looks like for a patient.
Okay.
Because if this tech works, it changes the entire experience of going to the doctor. Or maybe it means you don't go to the doctor at all.
It changes the workflow entirely. Let's look at the concept of remote diagnosis.
Right. The sources mention something called a selfie exam, which I have to say sounds a little ridiculous at first. I just take a picture of my ear and send it to my doctor.
It sounds simple, but the technology behind it is heavy-duty computer vision. You snap a high-resolution photo of your ear. The AI receives that image, but the first thing it has to do is map it.
And every ear is shaped differently.
Totally different. Some are long, some are round, some have attached lobes.
Yeah, ears are like fingerprints. You can't just overlay a standard grid and expect it to work. My Shen Men point might be a few millimeters off from yours.
Correct. So the AI uses deformable mesh technology. It identifies key landmarks, the tragus, the helix, the lobe, and then it warps a digital grid to fit your specific ear geometry perfectly.
It custom fits map.
Once that mesh is locked in, it starts the analysis.
And what's it looking for? Just redness.
It looks for subtle discolorations, flaking, dryness, and edema swelling. In TCM, these are all visual indicators of pathology. For example, a specific vein showing up in the sciatica zone or redness in the stomach zone. The AI quantifies all of this pixel by pixel.
So before I even walk into the clinic, my doctor has a report.
Exactly. The AI generates a vagus nerve report, or an autonomic nervous system balance sheet based solely on that photo. It tells the doctor, this patient has high inflammation markers in the digestive zone and signs of chronic stress in the Shen Men zone.
It's a triage tool. It makes the invisible visible before the consultation even begins.
That's the key.
That's huge for efficiency. But what about the treatment side? We talked about Earables earlier. The sources mentioned smart hearing aids. This feels like the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it medicine.
This is where we move from active therapy to passive integration. Imagine a hearing aid, or just high-end, noise-canceling headphones that do more than play sound.
They're equipped with those active sensors and guard ring electrodes we discussed.
Exactly. So let's say you have epilepsy, or maybe treatment-resistant depression. These are conditions that we know respond well to vagus nerve stimulation.
Right, but that usually requires an implant.
Yes. Currently, it often requires a surgical implant in the chest, a kind of pacemaker for the brain. But with these smart hearing aids, the device is monitoring your brain waves or your stress markers constantly.
All the time.
If it detects a precursor to a seizure, or if it notices your cortisol levels spiking, it automatically initiates a stimulation protocol.
Without me doing any of that, other than push a button.
You might just be listening to a podcast or music. The device fades in a sub-threshold, electrical signal stimulation you can't even feel, to the vagus nerve. It calms the storm in your brain.
So you don't have to stop your day. You don't have to remember to take a pill. The device just manages your nervous system in the background.
That's the vision.
That's incredible. It's like having a thermostat for your brain. If the temperature gets too hot, the AC just kicks in automatically. So let's take a step back and just look at this picture we've painted. We started this whole thing by pinching our own ears, a manual analog hack. And now we're looking at a future where AI uses beamforming electricity, computer vision, and polarity tests to manage our health. It's a massive leap.
It is. But I think it's important to realize that the underlying mechanism hasn't changed. Whether you're using a fingernail to pinch Shen Men or a guard ring electrode to stimulate it, you're accessing the same biological dashboard.
You're talking to the vagus nerve.
You're talking to the vagus nerve. The difference is the visibility.
Yes.
The engineering, the active scanning, the multispectral sensing, it's all about making invisible data visible. It's about taking things like stress, vagal tone, or key deficiency, which used to be subjective feelings, and turning them into quantifiable, actionable data.
And doing it in real time. So there's a deeper, almost philosophical question here. The sources bring up this idea of the old master skeptic, a character they call Dr. Zhang, who represents the traditional viewpoint. And he argues against this kind of passive healing.
This is the classic old master versus the machine debate. Dr. Zhang's question is this: is healing just about fixing the voltage? If I can just zap your nerve with a little electricity and make the feeling of anxiety go away, have you actually healed?
Right. Because in the traditional view, this symptom is a message. The anxiety is your body's way of telling you that something is wrong with your life, your job, your relationship. If you just hit the mute button with a jolt of electricity, you're not listening to the message anymore.
Precisely. You become a passive recipient of effects. You're not learning new coping mechanisms. You're not encouraged to change your lifestyle. You just become reliant on the machine to regulate your emotions for you. It's a very sophisticated form of dependency.
I can't take my headphones off, or I might have a panic attack.
That is a very real and very concerning possibility. We could literally lose the ability to self-regulate our own nervous systems. We've looked at the light on the dash, the tongue, we've checked the oil pressure with the pulse, and today we plug directly into the OBD port, the ear.
And we've seen that we have the technology, both ancient and modern, to not just read the body's error codes, but in many ways to actually rewrite them.
And that leaves us with our final provocative thought for you to take away. If Neo is right, if technology can now read our stress and write calmness directly into our brains automatically, where does that leave us as humans?
Are we moving toward a future where we outsource our emotional regulation to our headphones? If you never have to learn the skill of calming yourself down because your earbuds just do it for you, is that the ultimate liberation? Or is it the ultimate loss of control?
A question for you to chew on while you rub your earlobes. Thanks for joining us for this exploration. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious.